Welcome to Hoffman's Hunting Heritage.
From the Great Lakes to the heartland, from mountains to the sea, there's a hunting heritage in the blood of folks like you and me. With rut bucks and goblin struts, it's hunting that we love. Mother Nature guides us on this land, and we give thanks up above. This hunting heritage is a bond that never fades away. We're your camo wearing family from across the USA. So fill your cup and listen up, y'all mean so much to me. It's time for the show, so go grab your bow. This is a wild place to be.
Hello and welcome back to a brand new episode of Hoffman's Hunting Heritage. As always, I'm your host, Bill Hoffman, and I have a repeat guest, one of my best buddies in the hunting industry, the man, the myth, the legend, the mustache, Mr. Aaron Stonehocker from Tactacam. What's going on, brother?
Not much, Bill. I'm looking forward to being on the episode again. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. Last time we had you on, of course, the 4.0 was the hot rage, and holy cow, Tactacam has come leaps and bounds from that product. Nothing wrong with the 4.0. I'm still rocking mine, but we got a lot to talk about today. First of all, before we hop into any of that, we're going to talk specs. We're not going to get crazy nerdy. We're going to talk about what is Tactacam, why you should use it, what's coming out next. But how'd your hunting season go this year, man?
Really, really good, man. I actually, since I last was on here, I've moved from Virginia to, actually, I don't know. I was in Virginia still. So yeah, from Virginia to Montana. So a huge change of pace, change of scenery, and a change of hunting seasons. I'll tell you that. So, had probably the best year I've had in about 6 years.
Well, you're a Western hunter now, eh?
Yeah. That's what they tell me anyway.
No,
Get through the A in there. As I get a little bit of Canadian up here. I'm about a hour and a half, 2 hours from the Canadian border too. So,
well, you got to remember, I'm 30 miles from Canada. So,
right.
like, yeah, your hour and a half, that would be a long trip to Canada for me. So,
well, yeah, for sure. For sure.
One little trivia thing that's always funny to bring up is, in that Journey song, when they say, born and raised in South Detroit, South Detroit is Windsor, Canada. Because Detroit like sticks out on the edge there of the Detroit River, and Windsor, Canada, like swoops under. It's actually like the only part of the U.S. that is directly north of Canada. Alaska clearly, but it's like people don't realize that.
No kidding.
Yeah. If like Windsor like has like a finger that runs down, so Detroit is actually north of Canada.
Oh, no kidding. That's awesome.
Yeah, but anyway, I digress. Back to hunting stuff.
Yeah.
So what was the main difference between Virginia and Montana? Obviously, big sky country and whatnot, but are you whitetails, muleys, elk? Are you doing all different kinds of stuff, or what's up with that?
Yeah, man, a little bit of everything. So, Virginia's got I grew up in Iowa, so not much different there. Elks are, not elk. Here, whitetail and turkey is pretty much your primary game, and waterfowl obviously is fantastic out there. And then there's a little bit of bear hunting that was on my bucket list when I was in Virginia, because it was the one different game species. But then out here in Montana, they have everything shy of caribou for North American big game animals out here. So I did everything from early season. Well, I guess earlier yet. Here coming up in a few weeks, we got spring bear again. So I did my first shot at spring bear last year. I had a beautiful blonde black bear at about 700 yards, just outside my shooting comfort zone. So I made some moves and never got it, but I did get it on that new FTS from Tactacam, which is cool. So I can save that screenshot. I show everybody on my phone. Didn't get the bear, but I got a picture of him, which is pretty cool. And then I think there's a 50-50 debate on the other bear that I saw that day, if it was a grizzly or a black bear. It's pretty far out there, but that was really cool. And then, fast forward a few months, and it was archery antelope starting in August, and I chased those guys around like crazy and never got my antelope here in Montana. I ended up going to Wyoming and getting my first antelope with a rifle, and then mule deer and whitetail took over. I did go elk hunting a couple of times. I had about a 320-inch bull at about 40 yards with a bow in my hand, and my knees about buckled on me. It was so intense, but he never gave us a shot. He just kind of worked off of one of the coolest experiences I've had in the woods. And I mean, there's just no end to the season out here if you're not hunting or fishing, and just tons and tons of stuff to do. So I think I landed the season with 4 deer. I had three mule deer, 1 whitetail, and an antelope, and then a pile of ducks and geese in the freezer, I think is kind of what I ended up with. So
it sounds like you made the right choice. Let's not forget you went from being law enforcement in Virginia to working in the outdoors industry in probably the greatest place short of Alaska you could probably go.
Yes. Yeah. 100%, man. And I tell you what, though, the outdoors industry, everybody has got that, you hear a lot of people, or you see it in Facebook comments or whatever. Oh, that's my dream, And I think everybody's got that Luke Bryan song stuck in their head, hunting, fishing, loving every day. Right. And that's the exact opposite of what working in the outdoors industry is, because the busiest times of year are when hunters and fishermen and all those guys are out there utilizing and buying their products from the mom and pop shops. And I transitioned this year into a sales role, and I've never had time to hunt less. So
yeah,
I got a few opportunities, and I was lucky enough to capitalize on those opportunities and just put enough map work in to, say this is a good spot. I've got one Friday, let's go check it out. Or I've got this weekend open, let's go check that out. And it just worked out.
Well, that's good that it worked out. Yeah, you're right though. It's like, two things that reminds me of when I came through the academy, all the different departments come in and they talk to you and they give you their sales pitch. And I was always, I'm an outdoorsman. I always was thinking like DNR officer, conservation officer. And it was actually the DNR officer that came and interviewed me that talked me out of applying. Because he said, "Is this your passion? Do you love it?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Well, it's not the job for you then, because the time that you're going to want vacation is going to be your busiest time of the year, and you're not going to get it for decades because you're not going to have seniority." So I had the same speech that talked me into going the park ranger route from going game warden route. Was the exact same sales pitch. And the park ranger thing, you're all the federal holidays and weekends, and I mean you're working when everybody else is playing. But the caveat to that, at least from the park ranger perspective, is you're going to get a couple days off a week. You can take vacation, but you can take it off when everybody else is working. So when you are the outdoorsman and going out and taking advantage of hunting opportunities, a lot of times it does have a trade-off that you might have less time than everybody else, but when you're out there, you can make more quality time out of it. Well, totally agree. In my job's kind of like that now. I mean, like if I have a Wednesday off, how many guys are in the woods on a Wednesday morning? I am.
Right, exactly.
Those, especially if you're hunting public land, those parking areas aren't full. But anyway, there was one more. Oh, and the other thing I was going to say is, working in the industry like you and I do. I was talking to a guy that was down in Alabama, and I said, "Hey, man, I didn't see you at the ATA show," and he said, "Dude, that's the rut."
That's the run for Alabama.
And I was like, yeah, I guess, he's like the end of December, beginning of January. I mean, with ours in the Midwest being, the middle through the end of November, he's like, yeah, we're still deer hunting, man. That's like some of the best deer hunting there is. And
isn't that crazy?
I'm so focused on other stuff in January. It's almost like January rolls around. I'm like, oh, thank God deer's over.
Right. You've been pounding it so hard. Now it's just a break a little bit. But then by February, you're ready to go back at it.
Well, by February, I got the turkey calls out, and I'm like, come on, April. But anyway, all right, man. Let's talk some Tactacam. Anyone listening to the show is going to know what Tactacam is. You guys have done such a great job, introducing yourself into the market over the last, 8 years, 9 years, 10 years, something like that, from the very start with Ben and Jeff. But I've used Tactacam for years. That's no surprise there to anyone listening, and obviously so have you. But real quick, let's just give me a brief rundown on, just in case, what the hell is a Tactacam?
Yeah, man, for sure. So Tactacam is a 3.5 ounce hunting camera designed to be mounted to your gun, your bow, your crossbow. So it'll cover everything with our mounting systems in your gun safe, as well as your bow and your crossbow. We have head mounts as well. If you happen to live in a state where maybe your weapons are restricted with electronics, you can wear it body mounted and stuff like that. But I mean, it's the full package. So our lens mimics the human eye. So everything you see is exactly how that camera sees it, which it fixes all the problems with every other point of view camera. The number one issue is the lens, because it pushes the target away with that fisheye lens. Ours doesn't do that. And then on top of that, now we have up to 8 times zoom you can get in your camera. That'll allow you to film. My personal experience with just the camera, a deer at about 200 yards is about the max rating I'd give it, which is light years ahead of everything else. That, maybe at 20 yards is about the max you'd want to film with a GoPro or some other point of view camera out there. They're just not built to do the same thing. Our cameras are completely weatherproof, so it doesn't matter what weather condition. When you're leaving your cell phone in the truck because it's sopping wet in the tree stand, or you're going to be splashing through some creeks, you don't want to get your pockets wet, your camera's going with you wherever you go. And it's got full audio too, which is one of my favorite features about it, because that's typically the one thing you sacrifice in a point of view camera over everything else is the audio. Our camera has an extremely sensitive mic. It'll pick up a turkey gobble a little over 200 yards. So, I mean, it's the complete package, 3.5 ounces. You won't notice it's on your weapon, and it becomes part of your weapon, which is really, really cool.
Well, there you go. Okay, that's the end of the show, y'all.
Yeah.
No, but we do have some different products and models we're going to break down into. But so he basically gave you a breakdown of what it is. Now, he mentioned a few things there that I think, me personally, when I not technically sell a Tactacam, but when I'm telling someone, maybe we're hopping into the why here, he mentioned the fish eye lens. And if you're not familiar with what he means by that, that wide angle, that GoPro view. GoPros are a good camera, maybe even a great camera if you're riding a snowboard or you're in a race car. But in my personal opinion, and you don't have to say this because you work in the industry more than I do, there's no reason to take a GoPro in the woods. For me, I personally don't find a benefit to having that. Maybe strapping it on the back of your dog. If you're doing bird hunting, you can get some cool shots like that. Maybe for some underwater stuff, but I think we're going to have a solution for that pretty soon too. But for if you are hunting and you are trying to capture the videos that most of us want to capture when we're hunting, Tactacam's the way to go. When you're at 20 yards with a GoPro and that deer is a speck, that's not giving you what you want. It might serve as a memory refresher, but no one wants to watch that footage, you know. But with the Tactacam, it's up close, it's clear, it's crisp, and he mentioned it, guys. And I didn't know you were going to mention this, Aaron, but it's always been a big selling point to me. Being an audio guy, it's a huge ordeal. You don't with the Tactacam, you don't have that wow 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 that I'm recording everything. It's so focused, and the microphone is. It's not just intense. He mentioned picking up that turkey gobble. It's not just intense to what it picks up. It's also got, I don't know if the way it filters out other things. It sounds like the woods sounds. Yeah. There's no electronic metering sound. Sometimes you can hear that in other cameras, and it's just and when you shoot, it's not like this crazy like muzzle brake muffled, or when the bow goes off, it's just the twang of the bow. It sounds like the woods. It sounds like it should. And I think that's a huge ordeal, because people will put up with bad or shaky video, but they will not put up with bad audio.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And I mean, it's like you just said, it brings the wood. I mean, it puts you back in the woods when you're watching that video again. I mean, one of the videos I have, and we've all heard it, you run out of camera light. When I was in Virginia, I was like 20 feet inside this wood line. And if you've ever been to the East Coast, when you're talking hardwoods or any kind of woods, it's thick, nasty, super dense, vines everywhere. Point is there's not a lot of light coming in there. So, I can see a lot longer than my camera can in the woods. And so I was watching this field edge out in the open. And anyway, I had a buck come in, and he walked right underneath my tree stand. I had the camera on. I was filming him, and I got him out into the field because I was waiting for that light. Well, the camera, between the time I shot, didn't have enough time to auto adjust to the light in the field. And I pulled the trigger, and all you saw in the whole video was the muzzle flash. But the coolest part was when I saw him first, he was about 40 or 50 yards away, and you can hear him walking and crunching leaves under his feet from 40 yards out, walking right under my stand, and you just hear the and then bam, muzzle flash, gun goes off, and then you hear him take off and run about 150 yards away. And I saved that video for one purpose, to show people the audio that it can do. It's just, that's, like I said, it's one of my favorite features.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to get into a little bit more of the technical aspects in a minute, but let's hop into the why someone uses a Tactacam. And I've got my main reason, and I think my main reason is probably different than a lot of others. But for you, Aaron, what is the main reason someone should use a Tactacam?
So when I got into it about 6 years ago, my why for why I wanted to use any camera for that matter was just to be out there, record my hunts. You know, I think at the time I kind of had a mild dream of being like the next Lee and Tiffany. I know there's thousands of other people out there that have that same mentality. You know, it'd be so cool to be able to film on TV. And I kind of got into it for that. But once I had my first ever, I had a big old filming camera and the tripod and the whole 9 yards. And I got my first turkey hunt on film one time, and I was just hooked after that. And it wasn't even so much about, I want to be famous. It was, how cool is this that I can watch this over and over and over again. So, you know, like you said already, January hits, hunting season's done. You've got 1,000 other things on your plate, but over your lunch break, who doesn't like to kick back and do this, check this hunt out that I had this year, and you get to relive it over and over and over. And so then I started searching for, you know, different ways to go about it, and GoPro came across my plate. You know, and then, but like you said, you start looking at reviews and guys are like, you know, it might not be the right tool for filming your shot and things like that. So I eventually ran across Tactacam. And so for me, it's about the ease of use first and foremost. I don't have to think about the camera when I'm out there. It's part of my gun. It's part of my bow, or maybe it's on my head. And all I have to do is push one single button, and I know I'm going to get my hunt or my shot on film. It's that easy, you know. And then now getting into the 5.0, you know, being a Western hunter, stuff I didn't think about so much when I was sitting in a tree stand for hours on end is, and even when you are sitting in a tree stand, you're not bringing, you know, 10 or 20 extra pounds of gear with you up the tree, putting the camera arm on, you know, the whole nine. You can film a full blown production with like 7 ounces of cameras now with a Tactacam. But here in the West, you know, I learned really quick that you start out with like a list of things you think you need. And then by the end of the season, you're down to a third or less of the things you want to bring in the woods with you, because weight's such an important thing. So for me, you know, I'm out there, I've got 2 cameras running on my bow, and, you know, that elk scenario was perfect. 40 yards from a screaming bull elk. He's right out in the open. I'm out in the open. I can't move. You know, if I had a film guy with me, or a tripod I had to worry about, or a big camera, or maybe even a GoPro where I got to push the button a couple times, that's all movement you don't want to make. And so with the Tactacam, we've got a remote system now that I can just hit one button and I can turn on up to 5 cameras. And, you know, at 3.5 ounces, that's less than a pound of camera gear if I have 5 cameras running. So, you know, if I can run 5 angles of cameras in my backpack, or, you know, 1 on my head, 2 on my bow, 1 on my buddy's gun, whatever. And, you know, it just makes it stupid simple. And that's really what I like about it. And then, you know, we got all the different features, so I can kind of custom set each camera. But at the end of the day, they're just so little to worry about. They work, they're rugged, they're built to handle recoil, they're built to go out with me. I don't have to worry about getting them wet. It's just, it's super easy. Easy is probably the one word I can use to describe all that. Is it's easy.
Totally agree. And I agree with everything you said, and I'm totally glad you didn't mention my reason yet. However, you said with the Western Hunter, you talked about the 5.0. Let's talk about that for a minute. You're getting an 8 power zoom, right? 4K resolution. You can, it makes real good videos if you do eventually want to slow it down for slow motion. Everything you can run all those cameras off of the remote. Well, like you said, up to 5 of them. It's weatherproof. One thing you didn't mention is with the 5.0, we have a really nice image stabilization technology.
Yeah,
that has made a big difference between the 5.0 and the 4.0. See, Wi-Fi, you can review the footage directly on your phone if you want. You have actually even have live stream capabilities. And but you wouldn't necessarily, you said you mounted 2 Tactacams on your bow, so I'm assuming one's facing forward and one's facing backward. Are you going to use the 5.0 facing backwards with 8 zoom as well?
Good question, man. So yeah, I'm really glad you mentioned that.
For the record, I know the answer. I just wanted to ask you.
For sure. Well, that's a great point. So yeah, I do run a couple Tactacams on my boat. I run a couple Tactacams on everything, but I have 2 different styles. So they're both 5.0s, but they have 2 different lens designs that come in the 5.0. So when you get to the point, you've got your regular 5.0, just the standard 5.0 with the 8x zoom, the lens that sees everything the way your eye sees. That's going to be your point of view, your shot camera. You're always going to want that camera facing your target because that's what that's built for. But we built the wide angle lens. We've talked about that being like the GoPro point of view. And if you have a GoPro and you've already invested in it, you can use it for the same purpose. But for me, like I said, mine run off the same remote. So why not use a Tactacam wide angle lens? So it's a 5.0 camera, still has all the bells and whistles, all the features of your 5.0. It still has that 8x zoom that can bring things closer. But your max effective range of that wide angle lens on our 5.0 wide is you're looking at about 50 yards and in is about the max I would give it. Versus, like I said earlier, the regular lens gets you at about 200 yards and in. So big difference there. But like you just said, I don't want to have it looking like I've got a guy 2 inches from my face when I'm watching that footage. So that wide angle lens allows me to have one facing back at me. On the bow riser, it can have it, underneath the scope, facing back at the shooter. On my shotgun, facing back at the shooter. Whatever I'm doing, I can have two angles, make a basic full-blown video. I got two different camera angles. One's facing me. It gives you that point of view you want for that second angle. A lot of guys now, they're getting really, really creative with it even. And, they're using a 5.0 wide to capture about 170-degree angle, out by their turkey decoys 30 yards away from them. They turn it on with the remote. The Tom comes in. He's right up in front of that camera, but it pushes him just far enough away that it makes really, really good footage when he's out there beating up the decoy. And then obviously you're capturing the shot from another angle that way too, and he gets smoked right in front of the camera. So there's 1,000 ways to do it, but we have a regular lens designed to film your shot. That's what Tactacam's all about. And then your wide lens is to just build those angles on top of what your shot angle is to make it a full production for you.
Yeah, if you guys want to, you can go on Facebook, or is Paul Kermey, is his video on YouTube now? Any of his?
Yeah, it should be.
Okay, so
it should be.
Paul does a great job with setting up multiple Tactacams and having, he gets, again, he pushes the button and he's got all 5 of them rolling. A lot of times he'll have one down on the trail where he thinks a deer is going to come in. He has 2 on his bow, 1 up in the tree kind of looking down towards him so he can get the action shot of him drawing. And again, this is a mix of regulars and wides, and it's, like you said, full-blown production. You get a little bit of editing software you can get free off the internet, and boom, you are making one hell of a YouTube video of your hunt.
Yeah, absolutely. And you get guys like, we have a handful of TV shows that we sponsor, and they use our cameras. And I'll name drop Lee and Tiffany is probably the heaviest name in the Midwest and East Coast for sure. You get out here where I'm at, and some people are like, "Who?" Never heard of them. It's just a different style of hunting, right? But no, they're pretty popular everywhere you go. But point is they use probably more Tactacams than any other show that we sponsor. But I mean, they're running them for every angle you can imagine, up in the tree, over their shoulders, facing backwards on their weapon, whatever they're doing, and it's really, really neat. And then you get the camera guy in the mix, and it can take them out of the equation. If they're sitting in a tree stand, they can film the whole episode with, their own camera and their Tactacams, or, they're out doing maybe some elk hunting or whatever else that they're working into their show. And the camera guy, he can run all kinds of angles, off the tripod, whatever, same thing, using that remote, hitting the button, get 5 angles of Lee or Tiffany taking their shot, plus the regular camera footage. I mean, it opens a lot of doors.
And I love the idea of having a 5.0 wide in your turkey decoy setup.
Oh yeah, it's cool. And if you just type in on Facebook, YouTube, Google, whatever, Tactacam 5.0 turkey, and you'll find all kinds of footage of it. I mean, the customers went crazy last year making all kinds of cool videos.
Yeah, I've done it a bunch with my trail cams. And, made like I do a fair bit of turkey guiding, and one of my clients was like, "It's like the ring of death." And I go, the only thing I go, oh, yeah, you want to be in that ring of death? Shoot one of my trail cameras. Right, you better don't miss, hit the bird. But no,
half those guys 5 feet off the ground.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, you did not mention in our chat the main reason I tell people when I do in-store, visitations, or just people ask me why I use a Tactacam, and I want to share it with you.
Awesome.
When it comes to whitetail hunting or deer hunting or elk hunting, or let's just say when it comes to hunting ungulates, having a Tactacam mounted on your weapon you will recover more animals. and directly. It's directly related. And here's why. Being able to review the impact footage, being able to see exactly where your arrow, bullet, what a bolt impacted that deer is such a huge advantage. It tells you almost everything you need to know before you get down and go and look at your arrow. I have the perfect example of this. I was hunting in northern Michigan, shot a doe. It was a 31-yard shot. She was super relaxed. Everything looked good. I got a good footage. I'm like, oh, sweet. It was my first deer on Tactacam. It was my first deer I shot with a Tactacam.
Oh, nice.
And I was like, sweet. So it was relatively early in the afternoon, and I remember specifically because it was like the Michigan State game was playing at like 3:30, and I had killed her before that, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna go down and watch the game. Sweet. Yeah. And I pulled out, hooked my phone up to the Tactacam via Wi-Fi right there in the tree, and how wrong was I? I could not believe what I saw was a straight up liver shot. I thought I had put it right through the pump house, right, top of the heart, perfect double lunger, take all three out. And I went, oh, looks like I'm not moving for, 90 minutes. And then I'm going to sneak out after that and come back in, 4 or 5 hours. Obviously, liver shots kill a little bit quicker than that. I mean, maybe they do, maybe they don't. Every situation is different. But I can guarantee you, had I not had a Tactacam, you could not have convinced me that I did not heart shoot that deer and that I would not have it gutted and back to camp and watching the Wolverines and the Spartans playing. So what would have happened then? I would have climbed down, half an hour, 45 minutes. I would have looked at the arrow. Now, I probably would have seen liver blood on the arrow at that point, but still, maybe even just climbing down and going to my arrow, I may have bumped that deer. Now we're out there running the liver rodeo, and good luck. The
liver rodeo.
Well, one lung rodeo, liver rodeo, whatever. You're in for a terrible track, and yeah, and you're there's a really high probability you're going to lose that deer. So, because I was able to review the footage, I knew exactly where I hit that deer. And I knew that I needed to climb down and back out the opposite direction. Went, watched my Wolverines kick some ass. It was about midnight when I got back out. Went back out, found her perfectly. Wasn't an issue after that. So that right there, there's very few things, I think, products in the outdoors world. There's a lot of products that'll help you be more accurate, that'll help you kill deer quicker. But I say the number one product that will help you recover more deer is the Tactacam. No matter what you have it on, your gun, your bow, your crossbow, you have more information, and you have more critical information that I think that's more important than the newest broadhead or the baddest, fastest bow or whatever camo you're wearing. None of that shit matters. What matters is did you kill it and how did you kill it? And the only thing that can tell you that is your own eyes, which mine were clearly wrong, or the Tactacam. He's like, you and I both played sports. The eye in the sky don't lie.
Right. Yep, exactly. Yeah, when you can it gives you that instant replay. And, the 20-yard bow shot, we're talking about different camera, options out there right now. And your GoPro, even if you had a lighted knock, it's impossible to tell even at that distance where exactly that impact was. If you put an 8x zoom on that and make it see like your eye sees, and all of a sudden, like you're saying, you can see right where that arrow goes and make that judgment call. And, this year, a little bit different application. I had my first racked mule deer buck that I got, and I shot him at 261 yards, I believe, through our scope, which we haven't mentioned yet, but we have a scope mount that allows you to film through the scope. And I took my shot. I could see right where my crosshairs were. I know that gun was on, and, he definitely got rocked. He ended up backing down the hill quite a ways and going over the hill, and I expected to find him over there. And so I gave him a little bit, and I ended up going around this big kind of a gulch thing and up and over the edge where he last was, and he was standing down there in the bottom, kind of hunched up. And I was like, man, I thought I had a better shot than that. But, a deer's hunched up. You probably hit him too far back. Go ahead and put another one in him. And so I racked another one, got on him, pulled the trigger. He fell right over. And I was like, sweet. And so I get up there, wait for my buddy to get over there, give him some time to kind of expire. And then my buddy gets over, we go down, we're going to start, quartering him up and packing him out. And I'm skinning him, and there's only one bullet hole like in the rib cage. And I'd shot twice into the rib cage from what I could remember. And I get all the way down to the tailbone, and there's a bullet hole right. I mean, it couldn't have came any closer and hit the hips. I mean, it went right through his hip bones, and that's what dropped him. And I was like, how in the world did I hit him there? And I went back and I watched that footage, and even in real time, that footage, I had it in the slow motion mode, but in real time, you would have sworn it was the recoil of the gun, but that when I pulled the trigger, the crosshairs were right behind his shoulder. And so I had to wait till I got home, and I threw it on my computer where I could slow it down a little bit more than through our app. And I did the frame by frame, and right before that gun went off, I must have jammed that trigger, and you see that crosshair jump over, and it's pointing right at his tail when that gun goes off. But in real time, I couldn't even see that. So that even the slow motion gives you a better opportunity too. If you did have to back out, let's say, or maybe you're just like, man, what happened? Right there, slow it down, take the frame by frame, and, in 4K, being able to do that, it's invaluable. But yeah, I mean, so I had one good shot and one shot in his hip bones that dropped him, but I would have never been able to figure that out without camera footage on it.
Yeah, that's just incredible. So he mentioned a little bit right there, guys, filming through your scope. If only there was a good acronym for that. What would you guys call that?
I mean, if I had to pick a name, I'd probably just do FTS. I mean, it seems simple.
Yeah, that's right. The Tactacam FTS. Okay, this thing's badass. It is so fun to play with. Tell us a little bit about it.
All right, man. So yeah, film through scope, FTS. It's the latest flagship kind of opportunity from Tactacam. And, one thing we've been able to do is increase the zoom, but there's really only so much you can do there in the size of camera that we have. And especially when you're dealing with digital zoom versus optical. So, electronics making the zoom happen versus you being able to dial a lens in like your scope. And so we had to figure out a way to get that long range hunter, for a guy like me out here in Montana, 200 yards is only so good. And even at that point, there's zero possibility at 200 yards on a deer, I'd be able to see where the bullet impact was on an animal or anything. You get decent footage, but that's about it. And so taking it through the rifle scope was the next step to us being able to reach a different demographic of hunter, the long range guys. But, for guys in the Midwest, East Coast, there's a ton of crossbow hunters out there. And some of the videos that are coming off crossbow scopes now are just ridiculous. So it essentially works off a prism system. It's the camera and this mount add about 11.5 ounces to your scope, your crossbow or your rifle system. So less than a pound, you're adding to your whole setup. And it pretty much, you find the sizing adapter that fits your scope the best on the eyepiece, slide the FTS over, and then you put your Tactacam in and get the crosshairs level with the app and lock it down. It's super, super simple. It's rock solid. Handles all that recoil and everything just like it should. And the best part that I like about it compared to other options that are out there for filming through your scope is the shock resistance, and it becomes part of my shooting system at that point. It's not, I'm not trying to take a 10 ounce phone and some cumbersome bracket and add it to the end of my scope. I've tried those. They work great for other things. I'm not a fan for the rifle application or even a crossbow at that point. They don't handle shock as well. You're messing around trying to get your phone up and running to get the camera on versus, just hitting a button and not worrying about it. So just makes it super simple. It makes it a part of your shooting system. It's a super sleek, ergonomic design. And, now it takes the, zoom of your optic and turns that into what your camera's seeing. So everything you're seeing through that rifle scope, whether you're shooting a mile and 60 times zoom or you're shooting 100 yards and, backed out all the way to 3 times zoom on a shotgun scope, you're seeing everything the way your eye's seeing it.
Yeah, and just so we're clear, at the time that we're recording this, it's $139 on the website, and which is Tactacam.com, guys. And this is in addition to a 4.0 or 5.0. So this is for the guy that already has a Tactacam. The FTS is the mount and the prism system and everything you need to adapt it and fit it to your scope. However, when you go on Tactacam.com, there's a lot of good bundles and packages where you can just get the FTS and the camera and itself together. there's a ton of information on Tactacam.com. I really suggest if you want to learn more about the product, you should definitely do your due diligence. You know, you can search the Google, you can watch the YouTube videos and all the testimonials and stuff. But when you head over to Tactacam.com, you can really see that the affordability of what we're talking about. And in fact, let me think right here. You can even get into like a Tactacam Solo, which is a little bit lower option camera, but with all the mounts, an extra battery, a video card, there'd be a gun mount, a bow mount. It's like $260, right? So we talked earlier about, you know, that doe that I shot in the liver, right? It was a doe, and it's valuable. Some people put a bigger value on gigantic bucks or whatnot, but I want everyone listening right now to think to themselves: either you've lost a buck or a doe or whatever, or it's going to happen. How many of you, if I said, would you trade $260 for the option to have that deer on your wall right now? 100% of them would say yes. Okay. You guys are not doing yourselves a service by not running a Tactacam in the woods. That's my opinion, and I'm not wrong. So.
Right.
All right.
No, you're right, man. And at this year, you know, the price points, we've kind of adjusted some things. So I'm glad you mentioned the Solo. So this year, you can still find some 4.0s floating around out there, and they're, like you said, you get a mid-level camera, you get a 5x zoom instead of the 8. You know, you get 2.7K max res instead of 4K. You sacrifice some image stabilization, stuff like that. But great cameras. You can still find them in some of our retailers as well as other places online that might still have them. But this year we've gone to just the 5.0, which is our top of the line camera, and our Solo, which is our entry level camera. Both great options. You know, the Solo, I believe map on those, you can find them anywhere from about $150 up to $199. Like you said, they come with mounting options, which is fantastic. Just get started and you'll never regret spending that 100 and, you know, even $200 out in that field. The first video you get, it pays for itself. I can promise you that. Guys with youngsters, guys taking first timers, I literally well up, not quite to crying level because I'm somewhat of a burly guy, but I mean, when I watched my wife's first hunt, that when we moved to Montana, she got her first deer ever. She'd been trying for, 6 years, essentially, since I've been with Tactacam. I've been taking her hunting. Just never made it happen. She got her first deer out there. I was able to use 2 cameras, 5.0, 5.0 wide, in my remote. And I filmed a full production. It's on YouTube of her taking that deer, her reaction. And that's a memory that'll last a lifetime in my head. But now I have a video that I can show everybody, like, hey, like, check it out as it happened in the field. Just awesome. You know, and then this year we adjusted that 5.0. We pulled the mounts out of the packages. So like you said, you build your own bundle system. So the price point fits exactly what you're trying to do. Mm-hmm. And that camera is only $299. So extremely affordable.
Yeah. Would you trade $299 for that buck of a lifetime to have it back? Of course. Plus, you know, it's not just have that buck. Like we talked, it's about turkey. We haven't even mentioned the waterfowl. I've got some bad mamma jamma waterfowl footage with and I'm running my shotgun. I run a 4.0, and man, geese coming in when in a layout blind, and they're just in your face and boom, boom, pulling triples. I mean, it's awesome, guys. It absolutely is. So, Aaron, I know I've kept you for a little longer than I promised. However, there is one part of this conversation we haven't got to yet. You guys have been groundbreaking in as far as the FTS goes. You've been groundbreaking as far as all the additions to the Tactacam lineup. What's next?
I'm glad you asked. So there's a lot of hype coming out just about Tactacam. That FTS has been huge this last year since it's been out. Just so much footage and guys using it for 1,000 different things. And it's really kind of just getting that exposure to get that brand awareness going. And then this year, we're going to change the game in a couple areas. So over the last 3 years in development, we've actually had a fishing camera coming for a long time. And we've taken 3 years worth of just going to fishing shows, trade shows, talking to professional fishermen, you name it, and asking them, hey guys, if you had a choice to build your own camera, what features would it need? What price point would it need to be at? And, you know, what don't you like about the current system you're using? Whether, again, you know, there's 1,000 cameras out there that fishermen use, mostly point of view options. And, And so the result of 3 years of research and coming out this year is the Tactacam fisheye. So it'll be your 5.0 base level camera, and then it's going to have just fishing features out the wazoo for it. So like we've done everything with our current cameras for shooters and hunters, this one's completely built around the fisherman. It's going to be a $199 price point, which I love. It runs off the same remote system your 5.0 does, so you can run up to 5 cameras on your boat at one time. It's got all day power feed, so you never have to swap a battery while you're out there. It's waterproof to 30 feet. It's got an all day loop feature, so you record all day, save the footage you want. Just tons and tons of features packed in a really awesome price tag that I can't imagine it won't be bigger than what Tactacam is, because that fishing world is so much bigger than the hunting world. That's number one. Number two, just got announced here at SHOT Show 2020. We actually have an option now for spotting scope adapters. So me being the Western sales manager, last year when I started selling Tactacam, the number one question I got asked when I showed someone that FTS is, will this work on your spotting scope? Guys in Michigan, guys on the East Coast, they could care less about spotting scopes. Like Bill mentioned before we got started here, you're not using a spotting scope to look at something 30 yards away. So, but the Western hunter, it's really important. And a lot of guys use those more in hunting guides and everything else than they actually do other types of film systems and optics and stuff like that. So after bugging the R&D guys for about 2 months of me just getting pounded with that question, they decided to do something about it. This year we're coming out with the Tactacam. It's called the Spotter LR. I think they finally finalized the name. So Spotter long range, it's a camera designed to film through your spotting scope. Just like the FTS, it'll fit 99% of the spotting scopes that are out there in the market today. Just find the adapter that works for you. Some of my favorite features, it's a quick disconnect. So you pretty much set your spotting scope up, find your target, and then once you're on there, you lock your tripod in place. You take your Tactacam out of your pocket, lock it on, and now you're filming in 4K through your spotting scope. It's got a flip-up LED screen, so you're looking through the scope still, but you're watching the screen. You're not fatiguing your eyes, squinting through a lens all day. And then one of the coolest parts is you're always going to have buddies out there with you, more than likely, if you're out there hunting in the West, and you can have up to 5 guys Wi-Fiing to their phones the exact same thing that they're filming through that spotting scope. So really, really cool, super lightweight, goes right in your pack. Designed 100% again around that spotting scope application to fix issues that guys have had in the past with other camera systems trying to film through a spotting scope.
Yeah, and like I said, for the hunting aspect for me, I don't see it, but I could have a lot of fun with it down on the range.
You can. Yeah, that's a great point. So if you check it out, like go to, Facebook, YouTube again, Tactacam.com. We've got videos out there kind of showcasing the prototypes when they were in testing, and some of the coolest stuff, depending on the angle of where that spotting scope is set up in relation to the target. They've got guys that are shooting a mile, filming it with the spotter on an elk target. They've got some stuff, out to about 500 yards where you get to see that. I can't remember what it's called, but anyway, the wind channel of that bullet flying through the air, you can actually see that, which is awesome. If you have it a little bit more off to the sides in slow motion, you can actually see the bullet impacting the target, which is sweet. So like you said, it takes the guesswork out of range time now. So for the same price as your 5.0, $299.99, which is what it'll retail for, set your spotting scope up at the range, and you don't have to get your binos out anymore to go down there and look and see where you're hitting or take that, 200 yard walk down range to see that you missed and come back and try resighting it. You can just do it all from the bench, which is really cool.
All right. So here's the big question. If you don't have an answer, it's okay. I totally understand.
Yeah.
When are each of those products going to be available?
So we have a kind of a little bit of a range here. We're looking at summertime. So the fisheye is really, really close. That should be out here, I'd say early to midsummer. And then I would put the date for the FTS spotter probably closer to the start of hunting season. So we're looking maybe August timeframe.
Oh, so but 2020.
Go ahead. Yeah, 2020.
That's awesome.
Both products launch in 2020. Yeah, I'm super stoked about that. I've got my first demo unit of that FTS long range spotter is showing up at a trade show I'm going to tomorrow. So I'm pretty stoked to have my hands on one. I'll get to show my dealers, and we're starting to do pre-orders. So you'll start seeing them when they show up. You'll see them in dealers first. So go check out your local sporting goods store, and hopefully they've got Tactacam in there, and now they'll have a new addition to the spotting scope side.
Yeah, that's great. So again, we talked about if people want to learn more about Tactacam, Tactacam.com. If you're ready to go out and purchase your Tactacam, they do have a network of dealers as well as online through their own website. There are some packages and models that you can find at places, big box stores as well. It's not hard to get a Tactacam. It's, as I say, it's
Definitely not.
They're available. They're there for you. And if you're just a guy that's just looking to make some memories, it's there for you. If you're a professional production company looking for a better camera option, they're perfect for that. Or if you're just some dude in Michigan with a podcast that, wants to make sure that it was a liver shot or heart shot, they're there for you. So make sure you guys just reach out to Tactacam.com and get out in the woods and film some memories, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And then if you do decide to get one, I know, some guys, I hear it at trade shows all the time. I'm just not that tech guy. It's a push of a button. It's super simple to use. We preset everything on the camera for you, but probably second to the camera. Our customer support team is just fantastic. One of the best in the industry, if you ask my opinion on it. And they're there, 5 days a week. I believe it's 8 to 6. So feel free to give them a buzz, and they can walk a guy through his camera for the first time or whatever. So don't be afraid of the technology. We're very user friendly, and we're even more friendly on the telephone to help you walk through anything that you might want to know about that camera too. So
yeah, if you can take a picture with your phone, you can use a Tactacam.
Right, exactly.
It's less buttons.
Yeah, a lot less buttons.
It's a lot less buttons. So it's in the Tactacam app makes it all simple. You can change the settings inside the app. Guys, there's no downside to this. Just add it to your arsenal. Everyone should be rocking one. It should be as common as putting feathers on the back of your arrow. You just need to.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Is there anything I didn't mention that you wanted to get out there real quick?
Man, I think you covered it. I mean,
all right.
like you said, you covered the resource areas. Go check out videos. They're all over the place now. You can find some reels. Most of those come from our customers. The shows or the reels we run at trade shows, they come from our customers. They come from our team program. So yeah, just get out there, do a little bit of research, and decide what model is going to fit you. And like you said, get one this season. It'll be the best investment you make in the woods this year. Yeah,
exactly. Like up till last year, I was running the 4.0. I still run the 4.0 on my firearms, and this coming turkey, my bear hunt, and that's coming up, and of course whitetails, I'm going to have a 5.0 in my hands. So really looking forward to another great year with Tactacam. One thing, guys, to remember is this show doesn't have a sponsors. I'm not sponsored by Tactacam. I just believe in them. I work with them. I'm on their Tactacam team and whatnot. But I'm with them, and I use their product because I believe in it, and that is my compensation. So, Aaron, I want to thank you for your time, man.
Yeah, absolutely, brother. Appreciate you having me on again. It's been a blast.
Yeah, and I end the show the same way every time. I tell people to get outdoors. It's a wild place to be. We'll see you guys next week.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Hoffman's Hunting Heritage. Get outdoors. It's a wild place to be.